What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Do note that the Dr. Vibe show is the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. I'm based here in Scarborough, which is a suburb of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And do note that the Dr. Vibe show was a 2018 Innovation Award winner for the Canadian Ethic Media Association. I'm done. Next up, want to shout out to everyone who's online already. Shannon, Dre. Shannon has just a new conversation coming up on the Get Vocal platform on May the 5th. And Dre just finished another one of his epic conversations. Really happy to see Marty. Really happy to see Brad, and really happy to see Stephen, especially Stephen, because Stephen introduced me to this outstanding young gentleman, D. Scott Smith, that we're going to hear from tonight. And what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of his background first. He has his MBA and is a collaborator sitting in the junction of strategy and execution. He is known as a motivational listener. And we're going to dig into that term because I had never heard that before until I heard about this man. He's a mentor, advisor, and coach who will inspire and motivate you. His company works with businesses and individuals across the country. Prior to becoming a full-on entrepreneur, Scott worked in large and small companies in roles which include CEO, COO, and general manager. He has lived and breathed financial services, agriculture, and manufacturing. Man, maybe you should be in your government, man. They need help in all those areas. Scott is involved with joint ventures because he believes in the power of networking. He speaks on motivational listening, leadership, and intentional change. And I love one of his taglines says here, it's not about making money, it's about living a life that makes a difference. Absolutely. That is fantastic. I love it. He also has joint ventures for business coaching at One Unified Strategy and human-to-human communication at Hello There Human. Like that name. And of course, he has the Motivational Listener. So let's welcome for the first time, but not the last time, Mr. D. Scott Smith. How are you, sir?
I am great. What an honor to be here, Dr. Vibe. And I've just been looking forward to the conversation. And wonderful. So it's been on my calendar. So we've been, promoting it out, pushing some stuff and trying to get some folks engaged. So hopefully we can get some folks into the boxes here. And
well, we're going to do the best we can. We're going to do the best we can with what we got, because what we got's good enough, right?
Absolutely.
That is the way it goes. Well, we just read some of your bio, but especially when we have new friends on the Dr. Vibe show, I want to go back to the young D. Scott, where D. Scott grew up, his life earlier days before he became this mega coach. So where did you grow up? What was life growing up like?
Well, so I did grow up in Oregon. So I'm in Oregon and I grew up right here. So I haven't wandered far from there, but I was born in Southern California. I was born in the city of Orange, actually.
Okay.
My mother's grandparents, or my mother's parents, my grandparents, both came from Mexico.
Wow.
And so my grandfather was an orphan during the Revolution, and he was 5 years old, and he and his brothers came up. He had some interesting stories, and I'll just say that the world hasn't changed in this respect. So he's a peasant down there during the Revolution, and you've got Pancho Villa's gang running around, and you got the Federales running around. He said when it came to being a peasant, it didn't matter, because whichever group came into the town, they stole all the food, raped the women, and conscripted all the young men. And it didn't matter. And not to start off on a downer, but I don't see.
No, that's real. No, that's
the way the world is still.
Absolutely.
My grandmother on the other side, she came from the more European, kind of the ruling class, if you will, from a little town in the state of Nayarit. The capital is called Tepic, where she was. It's on the Pacific coast between Mazatlan to the north and Puerto Vallarta to the south. And my great-grandfather was running for mayor during the revolution, and he lost the election. And during the revolution, it's not healthy for you or your family to lose an election like that. So he left town that night, came to the United States. And so my grandparents met there in the city of Orange.
Okay.
And so I grew up with a multilingual household. And but I grew up here in Oregon. My uncle had come to Oregon State to the university to run track and go to the engineering school. And when my dad got out of the Army, he was looking for a job, and my uncle helped him get a job at an engineering firm. And so our little family has been in this neighborhood for a while.
Thank you for sharing some of that. Am I right to say that you had a very cosmopolitan upbringing?
Well, you know, of course, you know, it's always, we don't know any different, right? We have what we have. And yeah, and I'll just say that there's been some changes for good. You know, growing up, when you're half Mexican in the 60s and the 70s,
Wow.
and you're filling out those little boxes, and it says, you got to, you know, it's one or the other, right? And so my dad's family, they're all homesteaders in Kansas, and that's, you know, so that's the other half of my world. And so when you go to fill out that little box, you have to decide, which side of my family am I going to deny? Am I Hispanic or am I white?
Wow. Okay.
I'm just saying, this is one of those things as a kid, you know, you learn about.
And I don't want to delve into too deeply, but I find this very, but I find this very interesting that how did you deal with that? Was it easy to deal with? Was it challenging to deal with?
Well, you know, I think just as a young boy, you don't think too deeply about the things, but there's just that moment when you got to check a box, you know, and it's just, you know, and it kind of comes and goes pretty fast. But, you know, looking back on it, I'm thinking, wow, I'm glad the world has changed, and, you know, we still have a long way to go, but at least we're realizing, you know, we need to make changes. And history. Your personal history is important, right? So anyway,
that's good, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I think, well, it's interesting. The other day, someone asked me, "Why have you done over 2,000 conversations?" And I say, I just want to hear people share their story.
Sure.
And their story, like even what you've shared with me right now, I'm just thinking, wow, just as a younger boy in that culture at that time. And I'm going to remember always, what do you do what box do you tick? Yeah. That to me is very, very, very profound.
Yeah. Very,
very profound already. So I appreciate that. Where did you get your business sense from? Because it seems that you've been a hardcore business guy. Did that start
Absolutely
as a young person, or was there someone that influenced you into that direction?
You know, it's probably my uncle and my dad, you know, definitely influenced me on that side. But I would say from the time that I was in 6th grade, I knew that I was going to go into business, because I was just looking out into the future, and I said, and I don't know how I got this realization or whatever, but my dad did go to college later, so I was like 3rd grade when he was in college. So I kind of, you know, get some understanding of what was going on there. And he was studying human resources. Back in those days, they called it personnel, but now it's human resources. So so from the time I was in 6th grade, I knew I was going to go into business, because I said, everything needs to be run, right? Everything needs to be run, whether it's a mom and pop business, of, you know, a Fortune Global 10 company, nonprofit organization, government, you know, local associations. Everything needs to be run, if you will. And so I just said, man, that's where I wanted to be.
You mentioned your father and your uncle. Were they both businessmen, or either one of them in business?
Yeah. So my dad, he went the corporate route after college until he was 50, and then he left that and started his own business. And then, but my uncle, he he worked for a couple of companies, but very quickly moved away from that and basically always worked for himself. So he was a great role model for me.
Excellent. Can you just share a little bit of your journey in the corporate world? Because you've done
Sure.
high positions like CEO, COO, general manager. You'd be kind enough to share some of the organizations that you had shared that with, and
Yeah.
what sort of input, what sort of influence did they have on you during your journey?
Yeah. So when I was in college, my stepfather is a CPA, and so I worked for him for 4 years. That's what helped pay the college bill. And so I kind of got, so I was working with a lot of small businesses. We were doing taxes and books for individuals, but mostly individuals with small businesses and their business. So I got to see a lot of what worked and what didn't work. So you could see who could run a business and who shouldn't be running a business. Then I graduated from college with a business degree with a concentration in finance and a minor in behavioral sciences. So that's psychology, sociology, cultural anthropology, which is the individuals, our groups, and then how we relate to each other. Turns out that's been helpful in business to have that kind of a background. I graduated from college and then went into banking. So essentially I spent 12 years in commercial and retail banking. Okay. And again, working with hundreds of small businesses. And the great thing about getting into banking is that you get into a leadership role pretty quickly. So got into supervisory management roles. They have a lot of training opportunities. My dad used to say, in the bank, everyone's a vice president, but no one makes any money. So,
well put.
So anyway, I got lots of training, good opportunity there. I spent, like I said, about 12 and a half years in that. Toward the end, I was working for Bank of America, and I was actually on vacation, and I got a phone call, and my wife answered the phone and hands it to me and says, "Oh, it's Mary Stewart with the HP Credit Union in Vancouver." And I laughed and I go, "Oh, we're not moving to Vancouver." And I talked to her and she said, "Yeah, the branch is opening up in Corvallis at the Corvallis site, the Hewlett Packard site. And we'd like you to consider applying." So I did. They hired me and spent 2 years then managing the Hewlett Packard Credit Union. And at the time we were regular HP employees that were leased to the credit union. I got involved in an MBA program, and like most people that go into an MBA program, you change jobs. So partway through, one of the guys that was in my cohort was a business analyst in the factory supply chain. So providing all the goods and stuff for producing. They made the inkjet cartridges, the pens that go into printers. And so he says, "Oh, you got to apply for this job." And I did, and I got hired. And so then I spent the next 7 years managing supply chain operations. And I ended up managing the Corvallis and San Diego sites.
Whoa.
And so everything that came and went through the site was mine. And and HP, same thing. You work for big companies, there's lots of opportunities. So we got, training and lots of great stuff to help you grow as an employee. So I end up managing all of the third-party contractors. I got my direct reports. I've got probably 120 people in 2 states, $15 million a year budget, about $4.5 million of that's payroll. And you learn how to manage remote. And I'll tell you, managing remotely is different. It's a different skill set.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I kind of run through, 7 years there, and I could kind of see where things are going with Hewlett Packard and domestic manufacturing, because a lot of the meetings we had with senior management were, why did we do what we did where we did it? That is, why were we not outsourcing everything to Asia?
Yeah.
So I decided I'll choose the time. So I left, and I got involved with a small manufacturing company that sold into the display industry. And so we made book and plate holders. And if you walk into any bookstore or plate store, in fact, these are the little deals right here.
You're gonna laugh. I have one of those.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I have one of those. Yes.
I sold those things. I sold those things literally all over the world. And
Wow.
I'm at a trade show in Chicago, and so you got to go to the Sears Tower, and you come down out of the elevator from up there, and they're smart. They run it like Disneyland. That elevator comes down, and it lands right in the middle of the gift shop. So you got to go through the gift shop to get out, right? Buy your souvenirs. And right there on the display stand are these holders.
Oh my God.
That we made. Wow. I was like, yep, that's my product right there. So we sold those all over the world. And then I did a turnaround for that company. They were a third generation family business, losing money, losing sales for the past 3 years, turned them around, made them profitable. They didn't really want to own the business. They just inherited it. So my recommendation, I said, you know what, you're profitable, sales are way up, and this is a good time to put it up for sale, which they did. So they sold the business, which was great for them. And so it gave me the opportunity to find another job. And I did a short stint in insurance, and because they were hiring at the moment. Wasn't my ideal career, spent 2 years there, but did well enough in my first full year to rank number 82 out of 1,000 and take my wife to Hawaii. So I'm the hero.
Congratulations.
And then one of my clients one day called up and said, oh, let's go to coffee. And I'm like, all right, we're going to open those 401ks. And he says, I don't know how to say this, but I want to offer you a job with the company. And I said, well, I won't say no right away. What do you got? And so then I got into a specialty agricultural company. So it was focused on soil microbiology, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, all that stuff. So they had a lab, and they did lab services, did a little consulting, and resold some products. And whenever you do testing, and this works for any metrics, right? So any time you measure something, it has to drive action. So result A, actions A, results B, actions B. Otherwise, why are you measuring it? So when you're looking at whatever your metrics are, you have to decide, what am I going to do when I read these? So people that get their soil samples and they say, oh, great, now what do I do? And so they said, oh, here's an opportunity to sell some products to some soil amendments, but they were reselling other people's products, which is a stinky business model because you can only compete on price.
Right.
You resell someone else's product, they're just going to get online and go, oh, I can get it 8 cents cheaper over here, and you lost business. So then I helped them leverage the lab to develop proprietary products, and we changed it from the primary revenue coming from the lab to the primary revenue coming from product sales. So now it's a product company, and that scales. So you can go to a product company and basically use the lab as the marketing arm. So that worked, and I was there for 4 years, got them set up. They were all lined up to be purchased by some investors out of Canada. So I moved on to another role. That sale actually didn't end up going through, but anyway, I moved into a temporary role where I was the general manager for a upholstered furniture company. So we manufactured upholstered furniture.
Wow.
And about 95% of the output went to IKEA.
Oh,
so we were an IKEA manufacturer. So I was general manager there. We were doing about 13 million a year on sales. I was in there for an interim role. My job was really to get them geared up so that IKEA could come in and manage the company. And I'll tell you, I would never work with IKEA or Costco
Wow.
I wouldn't. I've now sold to both of them. And as an employee or as a customer, those companies are great, right? You buy something, this is like a year later, you drop it, break the cup, you walk into Costco or IKEA and you said, this is broken. I want my money back. And they say, okay, they don't care because they charge it back to the manufacturer.
Yes, yes. A lot of people, being on the supply side to those
Yeah.
organizations
Yep.
is not fun.
Yeah. So I just, I wouldn't do it. You got to be huge because you can get bankrupted pretty quick. But anyway, we're had about 150 employees. We're manufacturing sofas mostly for IKEA. We're sending out 4 or 5 truckloads a day, doing about 13 million a year. Got them on course to scale up to 15 million. That role ended, and then I was looking for my next gig, and I had learned how to promote the ag business without much marketing budget through social media. And when I was there, we were also doing webinars. So we were teaching people how to read their reports and so forth. We were doing all kinds of training through webinars. Well, a lot of the people that we sold to were also landscape contractors. So the better their business was, the more product they bought from us. Because I said, here's our business model. I sell somebody a bottle of goop. They walk outside, take the lid off, pour it on the ground, and then come in and call me up for more. Right? That's the business model. And so the more times they empty that bottle, the better we were at.
Right.
So I started running classes teaching them how to promote their businesses through social media. And then when I was after the interim deal with the furniture manufacturer ended, I got a phone call from a friend. She's like, I'm on the board with this radio station. Just had our board meeting. General manager says they need help with social media. And I said they should call you. So that was about 6 years ago. And so I meet with the GM, and they contract me to work with them. And then within a month, I had 3 clients. And I came home and told my wife, I guess it's a business now.
Oh.
And so 6 years later, here I am. I'm still doing digital marketing, but I'm really making a transition away from that and more into, you just got to find where the need is, where you can help out.
Right.
So about 3 years ago, I got invited by Sam Kelly, who you can find on Twitter as the tweeting goddess.
I know that name.
Yeah, Sam. Yeah, she's great. The tweeting goddess. One of the absolute best in the world at Twitter. So give her a good shout out. And so she was running the social media summit in Dublin, Ireland. And we met on Blab. So you remember. So we met there, and she says, we're going to do this. And there's a great story about how we met. But anyway, she says she's going to have this conference. I'm like, all right, I'm coming. And then one day, my phone rang, and she's like, would you be able to speak? And I'm like, yes. So they had a lot of speakers, 2-day conference, and they had some of the best folks there, deep knowledge. Facebook ads, Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, deep knowledge how to use this. But my talk was going to be more general, more broad. And I wanted to speak to because this is all social media professionals. So my topic was the psychology and sociology the psychology and physiology of relationships. And so basically what I did there is we went through the academic research and proved that the relationships that you create online are just as strong as the ones that you create face-to-face.
Right.
And when you create any relationship, you also create responsibility. So if we're friends now, if we lived in the same neighborhood, right? So, and then the winter comes, the freeze comes, your pipe busts, and you call me up. It's 2:00 in the morning. You say, Scott, this is Dr. Vibe. Pipe broke. My house is flooded. Can you come help me get the furniture out? Well, of course, right? Because we have a relationship, and I have a responsibility. And so when you create those relationships digitally, you still create responsibility. It's different. You have to handle it different because you may be miles apart, but you still have responsibility. And so as humans, we go out and we create relationships, and you create responsibility that goes with that. And what happened is businesses, when I'm watching out there, a lot of them create this online presence, but they don't treat the people the same as if they walked in the door. And so I took that topic, turned it into an e-course, and then it became the book, Motivational Listener, because I'm saying that's essentially the end of that talk, was that as digital marketers, we need to be listening to our audience, but they're not just our audience, right? I mean, those are the relationships that have been built, and they feel like they're connected to you. Don't abandon them.
I couldn't disagree at all with anything you say, because I always tell people it's all about relationships. It's the foundation of everything, because people are only going to work with or buy from, well, in most cases, people they trust. That's different when you need to get something at a Walmart. You don't need to get, but especially when it's something of high value, or right. I think the more the relationship is solid, the better the potential end of that process will be.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was going to ask you, stole my thunder, how motivational listening came about. And I find it interesting because we always hear about motivational speaking and motivational talks, right, but you've done this spin about motivational listening. So when you came up with this terminology, what did people say initially? And are you still getting the same sort of, what are you talking about?
Absolutely. So part of it, I will say, and we'll talk about this more in a second, and I'll give you the true origin of motivational listener. But there's some brain science that goes behind why that works, why that catches people. But the absolute truth is that one day someone asked my wife, Christine, what she did. And she just kind of said, I don't know, I'm a motivational listener. And I said, Christine, I love that. I will always give you full credit, which I'm doing right now because I'm a good husband. I said, I will always give you full credit, but I'm stealing that. and I loved it. And I've been going with it for a few years now. So here's why it works. There's our brains process huge amounts of information, right? And much faster than our conversation can go, much faster than the senses that we can absorb. So what happens is, and research says that because our brains process so fast, we daydream between 30 and 50% of our waking hours. So in our 1 hour conversation, you're daydreaming for 30 minutes and I'm daydreaming for 30 minutes, and we hope there's some overlap, right? And it's not you're fully involved in the conversation, you're not being rude or anything. It's just your brain's processing, right? You can think, oh, what did I do for lunch? I got laundry, I've got this weekend thing coming up. You can think about that and still be fully involved in the conversation, right? And so, but there's a part of our brain that causes us to focus when we need it. And it's called the orbital frontal cortex, right behind your eyeballs. It sits right there. And it's this part of your brain that's responsible for error detection. And the best example is you're driving down the road, and you've been driving for years, right? It's easy. You don't need to think where I put the key or which way I turn it to start. You don't need to look at your feet to go which is the accelerator and which is the brake pedal, right? You just do it. And you can be driving down the road, driving fully safely, but still be thinking about what you're doing this weekend, what you have for lunch, what you want to cook for dinner, thinking about all that stuff until the squirrel runs out in front of your car. Then your brain says, wait a minute, this is not right. And so it causes everything to focus on that instant. And so you can't be thinking about what you're doing this weekend while you're trying to negotiate, not squishing the squirrel, not side swiping the cars that are parked, not hitting the car that's oncoming, right? Everything focuses that moment. So this is the error detection part of your brain. And this is one of the key points of being a motivational listener. So when we say motivational speaker, it just passes right by. Motivational speaker, motivational speaker, motivational listener. Whoop, something's not right here. Causes you to focus. And so that's one of the reasons why that works so well. And that is a key point in starting conversations as a motivational listener. You activate that part of the brain and you cause that person to not be daydreaming anymore. They're going to focus on that conversation. So you start off, say, motivational listener. Oh, that's different. They focus on that. But here's another key thing that the orbital frontal cortex, that part of your brain, the error detection part of your brain, is responsible for: vocal and facial recognition. So if we meet for the first time and I activate that part of your brain, I imprint my face and my voice inside your head. So motivational listener, that starts that. And asking unexpected questions, that starts that process.
It's interesting. Would you say that most people who are willing to communicate are better talkers than listeners?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we always, it's trite, right? But we always say you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. But, when we're really focusing on motivational listening and in this case, really in the context of how do I connect with people that I don't know at networking events?
Okay.
So I was just in San Diego last month at Social Media Marketing World.
Big conference.
5,000 people show up to that thing.
Big conference. I know about it.
Yeah.
Big.
Yeah. And so if you fly in from Des Moines and you get on get in the Uber and they drop you off at your hotel and then you walk into that conference and there's 5,000 people and zero. Now what? How do you start? What do you do?
Well, I guess it depends on people's mindset. I love being in situations like that. Now, I wasn't always that way.
Right.
But I love being in situations like that. But the average person, they're probably scared blankless.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether you're an extrovert or you're an introvert. So here's what happens. The extroverts get in their way. Right? Mm-hmm. So they see you and they see your name. Oh, Dr. Vibe. Dr. Vibe, what do you do? Oh, podcast. Oh, podcast. Blah, 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 blah. Right? And you're just like, all right, see you later. And you move on. The next, after lunch, you see that person coming and you go the other way, right? Then the introverts, they're just like, they got nothing to say.
Right.
I'm just like, Dr. Vibe, maybe shake your hand. And that's it, right? And then you have that awkward silence. So you're like, blah, 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 you're going to fill it up, right? So in motivational listening, we want to be you want to direct the conversation. And it doesn't matter whether you're an extrovert or you're an introvert, but you use a process that I call a conversational journey. And this is how you guide the conversation. And it's focused on getting to know that person through questions and listening.
Yep.
And so, but it's different than just active listening. Active listening says, oh, I got eye contact, I'm restating things, I've got good body language, but you're in control of the conversation, right? So you got 5,000 people in that conference room.
Yeah.
You're there to meet people, not spend all day with one person. So you need to get there, get the contact, get a connection, see if it's worth following up. If so, get the contact information, disengage, move on to the next one, and say, you know what, Dr. Vibe, I've enjoyed the conversation. I look forward to following up with you. I'm going to find you on LinkedIn. I'm going to watch your I'm going to watch you on the Dr. Vibe show. I'm going to listen to your podcast. I'm going to read your book, something, right? Some way we can connect, and then we'll follow up later, because it's not the time to do it.
It's interesting. I can use an example of what you're sharing with our audience. Recently, I was at a conference put on by an organization called Dad Central. It's a national organization for dads in Canada. And about 6 weeks ago now, 6 to 8 weeks ago, they had a conference in Ottawa. They asked me to be the facilitator for a dad's panel. But I noticed on the roster that, I'll say it, Movember was hosting the social night.
Right. Yeah.
So I said, my focus was being that representative from Movember. So I came in during the social thing that they were having, and one of the gentlemen from the conference says, how you doing? Fine. Says, where's the guy from Movember? He basically physically took me over there to him.
Perfect.
And I said,
absolutely perfect.
And it's wonderful. And then we had a conversation for about 45 minutes. I only spoke for about 5 minutes. I let him do the talking. As I said, I controlled the conversation, meaning that I made sure that whatever he spoke about, he was comfortable with. I didn't throw something out of left field for him. It was really interesting because he talked about, he's basically second generation working in the nonprofit sector, because he was so open, saying his father was one of the key people for the the warning signs on cigarette boxes.
Oh, really?
Yes. So he got into that during
That's
the
fabulous.
conversation. Yeah. And he goes, I'm so happy. And it like, we got to that point and I said, hey, well, what is your like, I had a 1-pager about myself. And he goes, wow, this is such good timing. We haven't done any podcasting for 2 years. Da, 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 da. And I said, wonderful. And I just listened and served him. That's all I basically, I just kept on feeding him. And it was an incredible conversation. And I called him 2 days later. He says, oh yeah, I passed your bio to everyone in the office. My manager wants to meet you.
See, this is, and that's the, that tagline on the book is be interesting by being interested.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And that one of the outcomes is that you don't then have to ask for introductions.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to literally say, they're going to call people over and say, you need to come meet this guy. You need to meet Dr. Vibe. Right. And that's exactly what happened to you.
Yeah. And I just wanted to share that example. I just went, wow, like, and the listening part is so key because most people, what they like to do, their number one thing is talk about themselves.
Yeah.
So if you are motivational listener, that just works right into the wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's the whole deal, right? And so there's what I see is there's a few key things, right, that we look at in general.
Yeah.
And so when you walk into that room with 5,000 people or 50 people or worse, especially if you're an introvert, maybe one person, right? And so these skills work at each of these levels, right? So it'll fractal down to each level. So the first key is to know that you are remarkable.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Right. So and so we got Stephen Caggiano here, right? So
Yes.
Stephen is a master at conversion, right? These
Yes,
Facebook ads
I
and stuff.
know that.
I mean,
I know that.
he's the master. Now, and I trust that Stephen believes that as well. But many of us suffer from the imposter syndrome. What do I really know? What can I really add? I'm walking into this room in social media marketing world, and these are the best in the world who come here. What can I add, right? And so we diminish ourselves. And so you forget you're remarkable. What you have to offer
Mm-hmm.
exists nowhere else in the universe. This is it. You're the one. And there's a reason for you to be there. And you have something to offer. So the first thing is to know that you have something of value to offer, whatever that is.
That's so key.
And this goes back to the whole brain science, is that we forget because of what you learn. So how many conversations have you had? 2,000?
Over 2,000.
2,000 conversations.
Yep.
Right. And so I will just say the technology does not get in your way.
No.
Right. So you've got the microphone, you got a computer, you got the whole thing, right? You're logged in, things work, you got the recording going, you're going to send this out. And so you don't need to think about that because it has now been physically hardwired into your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if I said, hey, Dr. Vibe, I'm thinking about doing a show and stuff, what kind of equipment do I need? And so I'm literally going to ask you that right now. If I was going to start out, what should I do? What would I buy or go out? I'm going to get on Amazon and I'm going to have them deliver some smiley boxes. What do I need?
Well, you obviously, do you have a computer? Do you have a laptop? Do you have a desktop? Yes or no?
Okay. Yeah. So I got a Windows machine, pretty new, last year or so.
Okay. Then I would recommend buying an ATR 2100 microphone. The great thing about that, it's USB and it's also XLR. So you can use it with your computer or you can use it with a mixer.
Oh, nice.
Best value right there. So that's one of the best microphones. It's what I would say to someone right now is to get started now, the barriers are lower than ever, but the amount of work it takes is still the same.
Do you remember Andy Rooney? He was
Yep. Oh yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah. So he wrote all these essays and stuff.
Yeah, man.
Yep, 60 Minutes. And one of his essays, he was talking about the transition that he made from manual typewriters to electric typewriters to word processors to computers, right? And he said, computers make writing easier, but they don't make it better.
There you go. There's still work involved. So as I share with people, it's funny. The people that sort of thought I was whack doing this many years ago are now the people who are coming to me for the advice.
So that's wonderful. And so here's the thing. When I ask you about that, man, you throw out this ATR, right?
Yeah.
And this is and it's XLR and it's USB. And I didn't notice you looking on Google to find that. I didn't see you pulling up Amazon, right? You know why? Because it's right here. And you just
hardwired.
You breathe out these answers, right? And I go, Dr. Vibe was not born knowing that information. You had to acquire that information. And, it took years, right? I mean, you had to build that information up. And this is where it becomes valuable. So whatever area of expertise, so Patricia, that just comes on, Patricia has some value, some information that she's learned and acquired. That she went to school, seminars, workshops, trial and error, right? She did all this stuff to develop that. And then you breathe out these answers. And that is remarkable because it's not common knowledge.
And I'm going to piggyback on our theme tonight. A lot of that happened, D. Scott, from motivational listening. I listen to individuals who are further ahead than I am.
Right.
And I motivational listen to them to help me get where I am today. And I still, when I give sharing sessions to people, I always make sure I mention those people who I did the motivational listening to help me get where I am today.
Right. And this is and so because it's hardwired in the brain and people just breathe out these answers, they feel like, well, isn't this common knowledge? Doesn't everybody know what kind of microphone to buy? And so we shortchange ourselves. So you walk into that conference thinking, what do I have to offer? You have a lot to offer. You have something that no one else in the universe has.
I agree with that.
First step, right? And then I'll say the second key is that body language is irrelevant.
Why do you say that? That's interesting. That is interesting.
All right. So I'll say this for one thing. We study a lot about body language, right? Eye contact, handshakes, where to look on the face, crossed arms, non-crossed arms, open stance, closed stance, how the feet are. All of that can be created, right? And some people cross their arms because it's more comfortable than letting them hang at the side or something, right? But they don't talk, they're going to talk with their hands too much and hit somebody. So they just cross their arms. It doesn't mean that they're not open to a conversation. It just means their arms are crossed.
So let me just ask you, so do you feel is body language overrated?
Well, what I will say is really actually important is emotional intelligence.
Okay.
Right. So here's the deal. I can fake my body language, right? I can give you that firm handshake. I can maintain that eye contact and still not care about you a bit, right? But I give you that impression with my body language. I'm leaning into the conversation. I'm doing all the things that I've practiced and tried and executed on. Emotional intelligence is very different. So the fundamental of that is that emotional intelligence is the ability to read somebody else's emotions and control your own emotions, and have the ability to also affect someone else's emotions. So when you go to the conference and you connect with people, there's going to be micro expressions that happen. Those are fractional second. You can't fake that. And so sadness, anger, disgust, happiness, joy, right? Surprise. These are all things that happen in a fractional second. And if you have good emotional intelligence, whether their arms are crossed or how their feet are standing, whether they're leaning into the conversation, it really isn't as important as being able to understand. And so the story I give was, I'm at this conference. There's probably 120 people in the room. And I'm sitting at this table where I knew most of the people at that table. And I said, I'm not here to talk to you guys about sports and weather. So when the open networking time came, I got up and I was going to walk literally to the other side of the room. Partway through, I run into a lady named Ruth. And she says, seemed like she was talking to somebody. I didn't want to interrupt her. I was just going to move to the other side. So I excused myself, and she goes, well, I'll let you pass if you stop and talk to me first. So she did a great job of networking, right? So we stop, and I'm going through my process of being a motivational listener, and I'm asking questions and interacting with her. And she mentions about her business and about how she got involved in it, and that her brother was very instrumental into her getting into it. But as she's talking about her brother, there's something that goes on. There's something going on. And so I directed the questions around that now. And it turns out that her brother, so she's in the framing business, and she also did art restoration. And so I go, well, it must be an artist to do that as well. And she's like, oh yeah, and then talk about her brother. And he was this very good artist, sold paintings for like tens of thousands of dollars. He died when he was like 50 years old from lung cancer, smoking and solvents, right? kill them. But because when she mentioned, I'm going, oh, you must be an artist and do this. And, oh, yeah, my brother. But there's this thing that happens. And through emotional intelligence, I can tell, don't just pass that by. This is that moment, right? This is different than, oh, it's a sunny day. Or, how's your basketball team doing in the playoffs? There's something there. So emotional intelligence. So I ask her the right question. She tells me about her brother, and our conversation is maybe 3 minutes. I have never forgot Ruth. Ruth has never forgotten me. And she is one of my advocates because there was an emotional connection there when she's talking about her brother. And I was asking relevant questions, and we connected on a way that wouldn't have happened had I not been able to use emotional intelligence to connect with her. And this is why I say body language, that's fine, maybe. Emotional intelligence, absolutely critical.
Okay. Makes sense. So, what do you feel is more challenging for one to achieve? Emotional intelligence or motivational listening?
I have a good process. I have a defined process for motivational listening. But it's going to rely on you having the ability to practice, right? So I love what you said about, you can get the equipment and you can get set up, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be a great broadcaster. And
Right.
I go, I just like, I'll say that, you can go out and you can buy the tools, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who take pictures, but there are very few people who take photographs.
Well put.
Right. So, but how do you get good at something? You do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, if I can give somebody a defined process, if you can understand the science, the relationship science, and then have a defined process, when you walk into that event, you're walking in with confidence because you're going, I know why I'm here and I know what to do.
It makes sense. It's actually there's a young lady who's a very good speaker. There's a lot of presentations across Canada and North America, and have the privilege of mentoring her. And she wants to do a podcast, and she's got the equipment ready to do. And the other day she said, can you help me? Can you give me the steps to do it? I gave her the steps. She responded saying, that's fantastic. I haven't got the strength to push the record button.
I love that. Do you know Brian Fanzo? Do you know Brian Fanzo?
Yes.
He's coming out with his book, Press the Damn Button.
Yeah. Yeah. She said, I'm just so nervous to just press the button. And I just said,
yeah.
And it reminds me, many years ago, I had the opportunity to speak with John Maxwell, one of the foremost
nice. Wow.
leadership coaches.
Wow. Yeah.
We had about a 15-minute conversation. And I said, John, how did you write so many books? He says, I just started.
I love that because they say, as an entrepreneur, if you are not embarrassed by your first release, you waited too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
absolutely.
You go back and look at look at episode 5 of the Dr. Vibe.
Oh gosh. My first episode on this journey was done with a laptop over my dining room table. And if people want to listen to it, it's still up there. But there's so many individuals who I mentor and coach in this. Oh, I don't want anyone to listen to my first one. It was so bad. I said, Put it up there. Leave it up there. Right. Look where you've come from. You stuck it out. You know?
I was just listening to a podcast, and the guest was John Lee Dumas. A lot of people know
that
JLD. Yeah. Entrepreneurs on Fire, right?
Absolutely.
And when he started, and he decided there was a gap. Nobody was doing a daily podcast weekly, and they're struggling to do that. And he's like, but I want it every day. So he said, there's a gap, so I'm going to do that. And I know that he got like 50 episodes in the can before he launched. So, but he'll still say when he goes back and looks at those, he's come a long way. He wasn't JLD when he started.
Not at all. Not at all. Well, I can put myself in that category. I remember doing podcasts and people said, "What is that? What are you doing it for? Why?" etc. So it's very interesting to see people getting into the wave of podcasting, live streaming, etc.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to see, and it's great to see. My touching point will be in 2 years' time. How many people will still be doing it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, and that's I think that's why some of the other platforms go away. You know, they get prominent and then they go away. Meerkat came and went. Periscope killed it, but anyway, now we got LinkedIn Live coming on. There's a few people getting access to that.
I've seen some people broadcasting with that. Again, I'm sure only a select people will get that opportunity to broadcast from that platform, but it was only a matter of time.
Yeah, until it, I think you can apply. There's a process where you can go and you could apply. Now you would be a good candidate because you already have a platform, you have an audience. You know, you could get on and use that.
Yes.
And then, once they kind of work out the bugs and, how the interface works and whatnot, then I'm sure that, us mortals will have the opportunity.
Stop that. Stop that. No. There's room for everybody. I'm a mortal in other areas. You're further ahead of me in other areas. We work together and win together.
That's it. We're all in this together. Absolutely.
Yeah. So motivational listening has been around for a few years now.
Yeah.
And I asked this before, but I want to bring it forward. How are people responding to it differently now than when you were first introducing it to the masses?
Yeah, I think because now I've got a little more definition around it. Looked at the process, looked at the things that kind of why we need this. What is that gap? Talked about people need to understand that they're remarkable. Well, there's brain science that goes behind that. We looked at the emotional intelligence over body language. One of the key things that I looked at too was understanding people's greatest fear. And what I look at that, and this goes back to those brands abandoning their audience. Alan Hennessy, we were recording his podcast earlier this week, Social Media Talks out of Dublin, Ireland. And he calls them digital monsters. They're just digital monsters. They create these relationships and then they avoid actually engaging with their audience, with their fans, people who love them, right? And so he calls them digital monsters. Well, the way I looked at it was, I said, here's the story that I tell for this. I said, there's a prison, and in the prison yard, there's a pile of gravel. And the prisoner every day has to go out with a shovel and a wheelbarrow and move that pile of gravel from one side of the yard to the other. Shovel by shovel, wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow, take it over, dump it, go back, get some more. And when the pile is moved over, it's time to move it back to where it was every day. And the prisoner's punishment wasn't the physical labor. The prisoner's punishment was that his cell had a window that faced the prison yard, and he could see the pile of gravel and realize that all of his work was meaningless. And so what I say is understanding people's greatest fear is people do not want to be felt irrelevant. And when you become a digital monster, those fans of yours you treat them as if they're irrelevant. If I go to if we meet at a trade show or a conference or convention or business mixer or whatever, and I ask you a question, and before you answer it, I'm turning and asking somebody else something, or asking the next question, or talking. That's so rude, right? And what do you feel? Irrelevant. And so when you're a motivational listener, you understand, I need to make sure that the phrase of the mantra that I use in this part is engage and validate.
Yes. It's interesting. I was speaking with a lawyer associate the other day, and he said that most people want to be treated with fairness and respect.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
So I think that could also be added to the area of motivational listening, treating people and listening to them with fairness and respect.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, and one of the things I talk about too is a friend of mine was a professor at the university, and day one of the class, he'd get up there and say, "Hey, I'm Dr. Fano, and here's the class, and I just want you to know I have a lot of opinions, and all of them are right." And his students do the same thing. They laugh, and he goes, "Oh, hold on, wait a minute. All right, Dr. Vibe, do you have any opinions?"
Yeah,
you've got opinions. Okay, how many of your opinions are wrong?
Many.
None of them, because an opinion is an opinion, right?
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't be your opinion. You wouldn't think that it's, you wouldn't hold it as an opinion if you thought it was wrong.
True.
Now, when measured on some scale or something, maybe we could prove that it's wrong. 2 + 2 is 5. Well, we can lay that out, and this is where I said there's two types of opinions, right? There's an opinion of intellect, and there's an opinion of emotion. So the opinion of intellect is 2 + 2 is 5, and it's been working for me because the scale that I've been using is 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, so I can round to that. So 2 + 2 fits in there, and it's close enough, and it's been working for me. But then you come in and show me new granularity, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We take two groups of 2, we count them out, 4. Wow, this is more accurate. So now I've changed my opinion. But it's an opinion of intellect. You laid out an argument, and I said that's true. An opinion of emotion is one that you cannot change. Doesn't matter what the argument is. So the example I give here, and this is I hope non-controversial, because there's a lot of controversial emotional opinions. One day I'm listening to a news story on the radio, and they talk about this water filtration system that can take toilet water and turn it into drinking water. And I said, I'm not brushing my teeth with toilet water.
Uh-huh.
I'm not flushing the toilet and then turn into the sink and going, that same water is now on my toothbrush. And you can lay out and prove to me that the water through that filtration system is safer and healthier and tastes better than the stuff that comes through the municipal system. But I said, don't matter. I'm not drinking toilet water. Right? That's an opinion of emotion. And so you have to understand which ones are you willing to. You're going to get so frustrated if you try to change someone's opinion of emotion. And so you have to understand which is which and disengage at that point. Or just it's just their opinion. Just let it be their opinion, right? I mean, does it, because they have that opinion, does it change your worldview? Probably not.
No.
So let them have their opinion. So anyway, that's
Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm gonna start winding it down because I know you've probably had a long day.
Oh man, I tell you, there are things that give you energy, and there's things that take energy. And being on the Dr. Vibe show and having our conversation, I'm charged. I'm charged.
Good stuff. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention tonight in regards to motivational listening that you've left that we haven't had a chance to hear from you? I'm going to call you the guru of motivational listening.
I don't want to be a guru, but I will
Okay.
take the title of motivational listener. I
Motivate.
I do like that. And so I'll just say I'll throw out one more thing that people need to remember is that
Yep.
the elevator pitch should be left with your flip phone.
Okay.
The elevator pitch is
I get it, but I want you to
dead. Elevator pitch dead. Right. So how many times do you follow someone on a platform like Twitter and you get the autoresponder back? Hey, Dr. Vibe, and it may be just a DR.
Yep.
Hey, DR, thanks for following me. And so I'm sending you this personalized automated message. And how many times do you just go, oh, that's so cool. I just, never. So if I run into you at a trade show and I say, oh, Dr. Vibe, what do you do? Oh, I'm home of the epic conversation. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And you ask me, what do I do? And I spout off this elevator pitch, right? This is like, well, we're a disruptive, innovative, novel, first to the market, and you're just like,
No.
You rehearse that at home in front of the mirror, and your mother said it sounds good. And so now you're going to say that exact same thing to every person that you meet, and you're not going to listen to them. But if what I have to, so I meet you and we're at the trade show and you're like, oh, I got this conversation. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. What kind of guests have you had on there?
Yeah.
Right. And then you're going to ask me, and now I'm going to go, oh, well, you have these kind of things. If you're looking for a guest, this is the type of stuff that I could provide. Or I know these people who can provide that as I work with them. So the elevator pitch, dead. Understanding what problem you solve and saying how you present that. Hey, people have a hard time walking into networking events because they don't know what to do. That's the problem I solve. That's better than saying, well, I have a science-based program with 7 steps and that's novel and disruptive and first to the market. And you're just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You're not talking to me. You're talking to the mirror. Well, elevator pitch, dead.
Yeah. Well, I try to be the solution to someone's problem.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And if you're not, then you know somebody, and that's a huge thing in networking, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Vibe can be the hero, right? I mean, that's the deal.
I just want to be the solution to someone's problem, and more and more I'm in conversations these days, and I'm thinking someone's saying they need something, and I know someone that can help them.
Yeah,
and that's that. Even on my business card, the first thing there is connector, not even host of a connector.
I love
that's
it.
The first thing.
I love it. And that's the thing, is being able to connect up with folks, understand what problem they solve, so that when you run into it, it's like, okay, great, I'll connect you up with this person, and you don't have to make any money on it. You're not going to pay any commissions on it. It's just like, it's a great thing to be the hero.
Agreed. I love that.
And I like Steve's thing too.
Yeah, I like that. So engage and validate scenario. There's also conditions in which it's best to disengage and stop validating. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And this goes to the thing, so if you go to a networking event and it's 2 hours. So one of the recommendations I make, never go to a networking event with more than 5 cards. Because the goal is not to be a blackjack dealer and get those cards into everyone's hands. The deal is that I'm going to start talking to somebody, and if I need a reminder or something, I'll give them a card, or we'll trade cards when it's that right moment. But not everybody should be followed up with. Sometimes you need to disengage, and it's like, well,
I'll tell you, these days when I go to functions like that, if I meet 2 or 3 people that are worth meeting, I'm good.
Yeah, that's the deal, right? So it might take 5 or 10 minutes in a conversation, right?
Yep.
And then introverts are going to have to go recharge, right? So go get a glass of water, walk outside, walk in. Extroverts can just jump from one to the next, but follow the process, and just connect.
Well, that's a very important. I think it's a process. When you don't have a process, things can fall apart. When you do have one, and I know I revert back to that meeting that person from November. I had a process. I had a purpose. I had a strategy. Bang, bang, bang.
Right.
Done.
And that's and this is what I say when you have a process, when you walk into that room with a goal, I'm going to connect with 2 or 3 people. And I have a process to do it, and I have a process to disengage when it's appropriate. Then here's what research says: attractive people are more successful. All right, this is research. Research also says confident people are more attractive. So if A equals B and B equals C, then confident people are more successful. So if you walk into that room confident that you have something to offer, right? You have a solution. You solve people's problems. You're not there to sell your solution. You're there to find people who will sell for you.
Yeah.
Right. So I solve a problem. Be confident.
It's interesting. I'll give another quick example of this that I engaged with about last week. Actually, a week ago tonight. There was a big event happening in Toronto. There were some representatives from the United States up. Actually, one of the gentlemen was the head of a major organization in the United States. So I'm strategic. Maybe crazy, but I'm a strategic. We'll get to that answer in just a second, Stephen, because Stephen has a question. So I made sure that after the event finished, I was the first person he spoke with.
Oh, yeah.
And then I gave him what I did, and I asked him, does your organization, the members of your organization, have a place where they can promote themselves online via interview? No. I'm your guy.
Yeah.
I gave him the information. He goes, yeah. And then actually another gentleman from the same organization who was located in Knoxville, I went to him. We introduced each other. I told him who he was. He goes, I know you. I said, he had never met me before.
Yeah.
I know you. And then I found out how he knew me.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, would you in Knoxville, do you know some organizations that may benefit from my service? Yes. Let's get in contact. I followed up with him the next day. We already have some things, negotiations in place. Right. 2 people. That's all I wanted on that. Done. Yeah. Done. 2 people I didn't know who I felt I could add value to what they're doing to their community. That's what I went for.
Yeah. That's fabulous. Those are great stories. That's partly answers what Stephen was asking about what it looks like to go from meeting someone for the first time and turning them into a client. And I'll also say turning them into an advocate. And so, if I'm going to treat Dr. Vibe as a potential client, and I say, do you need coaching on business networking? And you're like, no. Then we're done, right? Then it's not a network, it's a cul-de-sac. We're done, and I got to back out and go somewhere else. And so again, at networking events, we're looking for advocates. So I just want to go and find out what you're involved in, who you're connected with, and be able to later on hopefully follow up to tell you more about what I do. So my goal is to really connect with you, find out what you do, and close for a follow-up time. Hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's have a phone call. Let's do a Zoom or a Skype, or, if you're physically, let's meet for coffee, or let me come to your office, or whatever's convenient. And that's, salespeople always do that, right? They're always going to make it convenient. Well, good salespeople will always make it convenient for their client to purchase. Yeah. Right. And so what I want to do is the the great example is if you're maybe if you're a home inspector, and so you're going to a convention where there's a lot of real estate people. They're not really the ones who are going to write the check to pay you. They're not really your customer. It's the homeowners. But you want to get to know them, because if I sell that real estate, a home inspection, that's one and done. But if I build a relationship and they know, like, and trust, as you mentioned, if they know, like, and trust me, then when they meet their folks, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, you got to call Scott." And so this process comes in where the question that I ask when we meet, and I asked this when we started, was, "How's your world?" Because when you meet somebody for the first time, and I ask them, "Oh, how's your day? How are you? Are you fine? Are you good? You joining the convention? Do you like the speaker?" Whatever. Those all are expected questions that don't activate that error detection part of the brain. But when I ask somebody, how's their world, they have to interpret it. They get focused. And so this is a challenge I throw out. Next time you're in the grocery store or any store, the cashier is going to ask you expected questions, and you'll still be thinking about driving home, where you parked the car, and so forth, right? They're going to ask you, "Did you find everything you're looking for? How's your day so far?" "Yes, I did. I'm fine." And then you ask them, look at them and say, "How's your day?" Or, excuse me, "How's your world?" And you watch. They'll pause. They'll think. They're going on, right? They're interpreting that question. And so the first thing is capture that person's attention. And then they're going to tell you something about their world. And here's the thing that we didn't really talk about, but you have to differentiate between result and motivation. So people are going to tell you result, but you have to divine the motivation, right? So I can say, "Oh, Dr. Vibe, nice to meet you. How's your world?" "Oh, it's good. I'm talking with this guy from Oregon tonight." "Oh, how do you do?" "Oh, I got this podcast." "Oh, really? You do this thing," right? So now we're asking questions. We're connecting on that, right? And so I'm taking you on that conversational journey. I'm understanding what's going on. But you just don't want to try to sell that person right there.
No,
follow up with
never.
them later.
Actually, depending on the conversation that I have with individuals at these sort of events, I will ask this question. I go, "Why do you do what you do?"
Yes, that's a great question. And so what happens is, and they're still probably going to give you a result, but you still then divine the motivation, right? So when I ask you about this thing and you tell me, "Well, I've got this show and we have these conversations and here's the kind of guests I have," then I can respond back to you, hopefully not just repeating. Active listening says, "Oh yeah, you do a show on Get Vocal." Okay. "Oh, I understand you do a video show." That's active listening, right? But the motivation is that you're uncovering thoughts and ideas that have a positive impact and can be dispersed. And you have to be able to answer this question: what would the world be missing if the Dr. Vibe show did not exist? Right? And if it's nothing, then you like then binge watch Netflix during this time.
Yeah.
But what's happening is you're releasing this information and you're providing a platform for people to be able to get this information and make their lives better, right? So their relationship with their spouse or their children or their work is better.
Yeah, right? Their life better.
Their life is better because they tuned into the Dr. Vibe show. That's why you're doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also, the other reason I tell people I do this is I just want to give a place where people can share their story.
Yeah.
Really, Truly, I because
And
there's too many stories that get left in the graveyard.
that's right.
I firmly believe that most people have a six-figure story. They just don't let it out.
You know, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. People have stories. They maybe don't believe they believe that they have a plain vanilla life,
Mm-hmm.
but they probably don't. They probably have some pretty remarkable
Oh yeah,
histories of their own
absolutely.
life and stuff. Yeah. So this is that separating out between result and motivation. Result is what people do, right? The what would the world be missing without whatever it is you have to offer?
Good point.
So we have Cliff. You know, we could pull Cliff in here and we could find out what would the world
Hold
be
space
missing
for
without.
people's stories to emerge. I love that.
Yeah, beautiful.
I really like that.
Yeah,
I really like that. I think that's a right to the point. It's not a pitch. It's fact. It's
yeah,
it just bottom line fact. It's not a sales pitch. It's just truly sincere, and it's
yeah.
talking about people.
And this is so I was working on a project with an audio editor a few years back, which we decided we didn't have the technology right to do it, so we closed that out. But the foundation of that audio editor was the sentence, people connect through stories, and stories are best told through the human voice.
Yeah.
So you found a platform that also incorporates the visual. And
Yep.
and one of the things I liked about Blab was that we had these conversations, but there's something about that seeing somebody's face that
Mhm.
allows you to convey emotion in a way that you can't do with the text.
You know what, D. Scott? I always get excited when someone comes into one of these squares for the first time.
Yeah,
That and just adding on to what Cliff has said, that this space is held for them so they can emerge.
right.
Because before they came on that square, they were at one place. Getting on that square, they've emerged from here to there.
Yeah.
You know, that's I always get excited when I see a new person come on. Always, even if it's just watching, even if it's just watching,
Right.
and right, everyone's watching right now is a veteran, all that. But even when they come on and they've been on thousands, they're emerging from someplace to come here. I don't take that for granted, and I
Right.
respect. I don't take it for granted. I take it as a high form of respect. So
Well, I know we
right.
are winding down, but this, thank you. Thank you for
Oh,
opening
the
up the
pleasure.
square. And
Look at this. Cliff is
and
adding on. Cliff, you know, I'm gonna have to pay you and then engage in conscious conversation, which allows things to spawn that otherwise. Wow, wow, wow. That's sledgehammer material you're giving me, my friend. You know, I'm taking all this down now. That's fantastic. Does
that's
anyone want
beautiful.
to
Yeah.
jump in? I know we've been on for a while. Does anyone want to jump in? And D. Scott, by the way, I would love to have you on anytime you have time to come on
And
because
we'll
I'm not.
schedule. Yeah, we'll schedule it out. One of the
Yeah,
projects that I didn't talk about that I would like to maybe spend some time on is the hellotherehuman.com.
done.
And also say, I'll just throw this out as the teaser that the sentence that started that was, in a connected world filled with people longing for connection.
I'm writing that, so you know I'm going to be bugging you very soon. No,
I am open. I am open. Yeah, I would
well,
love to
you
do
know,
that.
and I do share with people, and Cliff jumped off that now more and more and more the topics that I have on these conversations are coming from the audience. Even this afternoon, I
Mm.
spoke with a lady who I reached out via Twitter, and she wanted to talk about. I says, "What do you want to talk about?" So she gave me three different things, and I said, "Well, each one of these could be a conversation by itself." And she said, "They're all interconnected." I said, "Great." And then we co-collaborated to come up with a topic.
Mm.
And she said, "Yeah, that's fantastic." Bang.
Yeah, I love that. See, when you collaborate, right? That's I said when you network the supercomputers between your ears, amazing things happen.
Yeah.
And that's
Like
collaboration. That's
I get so
collaboration.
excited when
Hey,
you know,
there's Cliff.
and and I've never met her before. Oh, Cliff is here. It's about time.
Well, you
How you
were
doing?
you were co-creating that stuff. It was just coming through me because of what you guys are talking about and bringing it forth. I just said, "Phew, there it is."
Nice.
So,
Wonderful.
but it's great. I mean, that's what I was the Blab evangelist before I was the mayor of Blab. As I wasn't elected. It was more of an
You were
anointing, and appointed, anointed, something in one of the
Yes.
anoints. But it was because of what we're talking about right now. Is that the digital connection, the faces, the expressions. We can't do that on the phone. We just saw the gathering that's been going on for 7 years. Every Wednesday, first Wednesday of every month, for 7 years they've been meeting. These are gathering for change makers, and they just went last month, April, to Zoom from from Maestro Conference. And Maestro Conference is a wonderful platform, very powerful. Once I said anything I can do to support you guys, because I have all this experience with Blab and other people and Peer.in and all this stuff going on. I said anything I can do to help at all, let me know. And they said, hey, will you produce our show? So I've done 2 shows, 2 of their I call them shows. They're gatherings for them. Come up with some graphics with Joe Burke and so forth. And so here we are. Having conscious, intentional conversation to expand not only one person's story, but the intertwining between your story and their story creates something new. And that you would never have that without the eyes and the facial expressions and the curiosity. That's what really drives this platforms like this, and the future. So we're going to, as D. Scott Smith said, we're going to take this. And as Dr. Vibe and I are going to talk on Saturday again, offline here, about what about the future? What about technology? Flipping it on its head, all the damage that technology has done over the last 10, 20 years to our kids, especially, and turning it, like you just said, overly connected yet disconnected at the same time. We've never seen this level of connection yet, never seen this level of disconnection and despair and especially,
yes.
it's crazy. So
we'll throw this out there. This is see my cow?
Yeah.
All right.
Like a Snapchat.
That's a snap code we have that'll create a little baseball hat with the "Hello There, Human" kind of a thing on there. So, but if you look at it, so I have a graphic artist, Julia, who's collaborating with me on this. So I had this concept, and then she took, and it looks like an alien head there.
Yep.
Okay, so we have like the cow, sheep, bear, dog, pig, all these different animals, and they all have this alien head kind of concept. And so the idea here is that again, in a connected world filled with people longing for connection, that on the outside we're different, but when it comes down to the inside, we're all the same, right? So it's that alien hit. We're all the same. And so we created these. We call these the visitors. And I'm getting into a little bit, but we call these visitors. And so the concept would be that I'd have that on my coffee cup, on a shirt, a hat, thing hanging on my backpack, and that I could be walking through the airport and someone could see that and recognize that person is open to a conversation, not a friendship, not a dating thing, just and so I could say, I'm walking through the airport and I see Cliff has got that on his backpack and he's just, and I could just say, hey, hello there, human. Right. And so now we can get a little human to human connection, and then you just move on. You're in the coffee shop working, and you have that chance to just connect to a human. And we're looking at selling some stickers and shirts and things like that. If we make any money on this, we want to take profits and put it into mental health. We want to provide money. That's the goal, because that is the weak point that we have. So enough on that. But that's we'll talk more. We'll talk more.
Definitely. And just before we close off, actually, one of the best things for me before I was doing a lot of conversations via phone.
Yeah.
raising my motivational listening by not being able to see that other person. That's how I gained my chops in a lot of ways to do this, because I had to relate and do motivational listening without seeing that person.
Yeah.
And
It's
that
a
helped me
challenge.
immensely.
It's a challenge.
So it's a challenge, but I'm glad I did it that way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that are doing this now, they doing podcasts with like for years and years and years. No, the video thing is where they want to be.
Mhm.
That's the hot thing. You got Instagram Live, you got Periscope, you got most of those people never would do a podcasting for as long as I did it. But I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. And Cliff, you were on Blab. I'm sure I'm sure I saw you. When you mentioned the mayor, I remember those days.
Well,
Yeah.
there's two things. There's a couple things to that. There's the Blab Whisperer part of it too, where it gets into the psychology of running a room or running a platform, things like that, to keep the room going and flowing, like Dr. Vibe has been doing. The other thing he just reminded me was that same thing. I did recruiting for years, where I had to listen in between the words, in between the breaths, and to the breaths. So, Dr. Vibe and I have another common thread of spending that time on the phone and moving people through potentially not just a simple conversation, but a conversation about their life and about where they're going to go and are you going to move across the country, and give them very quickly, some motivational listening that I'm doing, because that's what I have to do. I can't just say, hey, Dr. Vibe, you need to take a job over in LA, get out of Canada, forget that place. He'd be hanging up the phone. So you're crazy. Whereas if you're listening to them and asking them questions, and this goes across, forget about recruiting, just in general, what Dr. Vibe does so well here, and other, people who they watch, they keep an eye on things. Not only that, but then they ask the questions about what's going on with you. And the perfect, what you're saying about earlier, about when you, and I do this with people all the time, I blow them away. I'll use their name, whether they're a Walmart checkout girl or guy, or I'll always ask somebody serving me, they don't tell you, what's your name? And they stop and they go, well, what do you want to know? What, are you with the IRS? No, I want to address you as a human being. I want to know who's serving. And I say thank you, and use their name, not overuse it, but thank you very much at the end, use their name. And again, if you just do that, it's like smiling at someone you don't know or even talk to, having that brief conversation, treating them like another human being, like you'd want to be treated if you were serving them or something like that. So meeting people where they are, right? That's what, and that goes back to what I was saying in the side chat, that what's great about holding space, which Dr. Vibe does so well, is to allow that conversation to kind of blossom and bloom on its own. Throw a little fertilizer and a little water, but keep things moving along, make sure things are stable, but up comes an amazing connection conversation. So I'll leave it there, but the Blab stuff was the next level for me. I knew that's where I needed to go and be in terms of video, moving off of years of figuring out how do we get people together in a group setting to do things that's going to be good for humanity. That's going to be good for our kids' future. That's what this is about. It's not about, in the moment, that's great to have somebody feeling better, but you know what, that energy goes out into the world, even if it's a very small thing. And we've saved lives on Blab. We've saved lives here already. People who said, they were lost after Blab. They were like floating in the breeze out there, and they found Get Vocal. And they said, I, for a period of time during that 2 years or so, was hiatus, and there was no place to go. Some people were in the hospital, mental situations, and they've now found us here and feel connected again, and feel like the people are holding that space for them to be themselves. There's none of that, oh, you need to be this, you need to be that, or you can't be in the room if you're not that or that. None of that. Ultimately, this is this wonderful place, especially with the digital eyeballs, where we can self-police, if you will. It's self-regulate. I don't like the word police. Self-regulate. Because we care. We care about the other person's feeling. And it may get testy, and we're going to test our limits, as is any group setting. But the challenge for us as leaders in this kind of an environment is, how do we keep the room going? How do we make sure that that what can blossom is allowed to blossom as much as possible? you never know. Some things are going to go awry. I'm going to be quiet. I love this conversation. This is my bailiwick. This is my ball.
I hear you.
This is your wheelhouse. D. Scott Smith, before we let you jump out or end our epic conversation, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so got the website, dscottsmith.com. You can go there and email Scott at dscottsmith.com. Find me on Twitter, D_Scott. Instagram is a great place to have conversations as well. So d.scottsmith is, those are all ways to get a hold of me. And
Wonderful.
Any way that's convenient for you works for me.
Wonderful. Before we close it out, I will just say thanks to, first and foremost, I'm going to thank Mr. Steven, who introduced us together. Much thanks, much appreciated. Also want to say thanks to Big Bad Brad. Also, Dre was in for a bit. Marty. We also had Shannon in for a little bit. Gisela from Get Vocal was in for a little bit. Kinte. Artis has been here for a while. Rich was here for a little bit. We also have Patricia. And also, of course, Tony. Thank you all for making an epic conversation. If you want to get in touch with me, the best way is just go to my website, thedrvibeshow.com. It'll update you on all the crazy stuff that I'm going on with when it comes to hosting epic conversations. I will always end off all my conversations like this saying, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Next up, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions. And then the thing I now say at the end, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Thank you so much for watching this live or on the replay. D. Scott will be back sooner rather than later. Thank you also to Cliff, because I love when Cliff's in his wheelhouse. It's a wonderful thing. Many people have told me offline they love Cliff when he's in that wheelhouse. They absolutely love it. So we will chat soon. Be well and keep the faith. Good night, everybody.
Have a fabulous day, all. Cheers.
Namaste.